Our hero thought but of treasure ahead, did not consider the peace of the dead. Through the dark he went creeping, and awoke what was sleeping. A new grave they dug, which he himself fed.
So much like the other people out there, the nearly million concurrent players on Steam, I picked up Baldur's Gate 3. Why not? I mean, I like these kind of tabletop style RPGs. I love Dungeons and Dragons, and I have the first two Baldur's Gates, so why not? And I have to say, it is a very good game. Doesn't mean it's for everybody. It's definitely for me, but it might not be for you. I've seen a lot of reviews on Steam and a lot of comments online of people saying, oh, this game is turn-based, it's too slow, I want more action. A lot of people are under the misconception that this is Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 3, and it's not. The Dark Alliance games that came out on PS2, Xbox and GameCube are awesome and are more Diablo-esque, they're more action RPG, whereas this one is point-and-click, turn-based combat, multiple decisions and ways to complete the game. This is the Baldur's Gate 3 to the Baldur's Gates that came out in the 90s. This is that Baldur's Gate. So if you do not like turn-based combat, if you do not like a slower experience, larger stories, loads of cutscenes, a lot of talking to people, this is not going to be the game for you. No matter how amazing it is and no matter how awesome and content-filled it is. My brother is currently playing through it, and me and him I started as a wizard because I'm always usually a rogue, so I thought, I'll go wizard, so I'm using spells, which is pretty cool, and he chose probably something brutish, and we're having completely different experiences playing through it, and it's really cool to find out what he's doing, and then obviously he's finding out what I'm doing, and I'm not going to lie, I got stuck on certain points of the game, so I'm kind of asking him, what the hell did you do? Just to get by, basically. But everything Baldur's Gate 3 does right is everything that this game should be. Larian Studios, who also made Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, which are also really epic games that you should check out in this same game style, they have really knocked it out of the park with Baldur's Gate 3. It's a full experience, it's got hundreds of hours worth of content if you want it. I think it's only roughly around 30-ish to 40-ish hours to complete the story if you just kind of plow on through the main story. And even though I'm playing it on the lowest difficulty because I'm a punk bitch, it's still pretty savage and I have died a lot. It is pretty brutal. I dread to think what it's like on harder difficulties. But there's so much customization that you can do with your characters and equipment and different buffs and debuffs that come with different weapons and equipment and being proficient in those things, so you can't just equip anything on anybody. But I do like that. That is pretty cool. If you're using, like for me being a wizard, if I use ice magic and I freeze the enemy or freeze the floor, your own characters and the enemy can slip on the floor and knock themselves out, which is hilarious. But also that ice melts over time and then turns into water. Or if you use fire magic near it, it will melt it and turn it to water. And then you can use like electric spells to make that electrocuted. It's really in depth in that way with the combat. There are so many options. You can drop things on enemies from up high, as in like torches that hang in from the ceiling. You can break the chain and drop that on them. You can knock down statues onto them. You can explode barrels. You can, if they're on wooden platforms, you can destroy the legs of the wooden platform to bring them down. It takes into account if you're using ranged attacks, like being an archer, and you're up high, you get a higher percentage of hit and damage, which is pretty cool. You can utilize stealth, so even if you're in or outside of combat and you've got a rogue, or if your main character is a rogue, you can sneak around the enemy and use stealth attacks to deal double damage and that kind of stuff. That is pretty... And also if you are hidden and you attack them, so out of combat, and then you attack them to go into combat, but they don't know where you are, they don't automatically come to your location to try and find you. They're kind of surprised and dazed, and it takes them a little while. That's pretty cool. There's so much in this game that is worth praising. But again, if turn-based combat, it's a slower experience, but it's a great experience if you're into it. And if you've never played it before, hey, it's worth giving it a go, although it is obviously 50 quid, and 50 quid for a game that you may or may not like is a lot of cheddar. Now, of course, on Steam, you can play for 2 hours and then get refunded. However, but with 2 hours of this game, you're not really going to get enough out of it to know whether it's for you or not. to be fair. There are certain decisions that you can make in the game, so you will be rolling dice, a d20, to see if you succeed or do not succeed in certain tasks or vocal options, with results either way. So just be prepared for that. Like I said, the game is punishing and can be brutal at a lot of the times. But please let me know in the comments if this is a game you've been keeping your eye on. Obviously, a lot of people are playing it. It's incredibly popular. But please do not fall into the hype and just buy it because people are telling you it's good. Watch many videos, see many gameplay videos, learn about it, research it, maybe try some cheaper options like Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, Pillars of Eternity. Those kind of games, they go on sale quite often, then they're obviously going to be a lot cheaper. They're worth picking up to see if you like the series. Well, not series, but the genre. You can grab the first 2 Baldur's Gates for like less than £3 each on CD keys, so you could always give that a whirl. And yeah, just make an informed decision, and please don't fall into a trap, because a lot of people do that, and a lot of people have done that on here because they've fallen into that trap where they thought it was like a Diablo-esque style game, and they jumped into it and they found out it wasn't, and they got it refunded, and then they make a negative review for some reason, which is bizarre. But I've had no bugs or crashes. I know some people have, but Larian Studios have been hot on the hot fixes, which is great, and I think they are working on bringing it to consoles at some point. I think it's just PC at the minute. I have tried it on Steam Deck, and I can get it running at a solid 30 frames per second. However, I don't really like the way it plays on the Steam Deck with a controller scheme, so I'm just going to stick to playing this one on my desktop. But I am really enjoying it and taking my time with it. It's a great ride, and the characters are really well voice acted. They're quite rounded, and you can have romantic relationships with some of them. You can kill others, which is pretty cool. And if you're like me, you have a certain companion who just who keeps trying to sex you up, which is great. But but thank you very much for watching, and let me know in the comments what you think.
Then we have an understanding. I look forward to our next meeting. Scars often tell such wonderful stories. I think yours might be truly exquisite.